In this video, I'll talk about the effective use of some informal logical fallacies by children. What do I mean by effective use? If using them results in a want fulfilled, it is effective and likely drives the parents crazy. Children generally start out getting everything they want, partly because they want very little and partly because they are insistent. Crying gets them fed, changed, and played with. As they grow out of babyhood, their wants increase and crying becomes less successful. They need new fulfillment tools. There are lots of methods that children could employ, but their language skills are not up to the task of successful negotiation. If a request is not met with a cheery yes, they will fall back to something that feels comfortable. And the first logical fallacy emerges, an appeal to emotion. And it is usually nonverbal, but might involve crying or screaming. They will find an approach that works well and work that one until it fails so badly that the child finally gives it up. Let's talk about the options available as their vocabulary and experience with the world expands. If we assume some sort of a standard bell curve, which may not be accurate, as a model of human behavior, there will be very common categories and methods used when expressing their wants and needs. I'll offer up a model from each side of the center and the fallacies involved. I'm not going to talk about the middle of the curve, though after watching this video you will probably notice the fallacies being employed by all children and most adults. Near one end of the method spectrum is what might be called the Hermione Granger. In this one, the child has learned that adults are happiest and most generous when the darling is being sweet and eager to please. Most children go through a short phase of wanting to help with everything, and it is short, after which there will be puppy dog eyes and tears when the child is disappointed in a parent's response. This is primarily an appeal to emotion. As the child grows and develops, the Hermiones of the world will appeal to popularity. It takes a lot of work and practice to be irritatingly sweet effectively. On occasion, Hermiones will employ appeal to authority also. Mom said I could, or the teacher said I should watch this movie. Another fallacy this class of child is likely to use is the zero-sum fallacy. That would be something like, I'm sure I'll be better about my homework if you get me a computer, which translates to spend money on me and something good may happen, but no guarantee. Hermiones do pretty well right up until the time they want something they are not going to get. How in the world would added sugar make the impossible possible? Another popular method is the Draco Malfoy, in which the child feels entitled and expects to have every want fulfilled immediately. Dracos are adept at ad hominems like, you are being mean, and you don't really love me. The latter might look like an appeal to emotion, but it isn't. It's always intended to piss off the parents. This method employs tantrums and being a mean, nasty bully to the adults in ways that result in many adults simply giving in rather than enduring the tantrums. Dracos like the false cause and false attribution fallacies too. This is some version of the ever popular, "the devil made me do it." It usually comes out as, "I didn't mean to," or "it wasn't me, Billy did it." One of the most often used fallacies by the Draco-style children is special pleading. Some attribute of theirs should cancel out failings in other areas. Dracos aren't likely to appeal to popularity because it would damage their personal exceptionalism belief. All children argue from personal incredulity at some point. The adult makes a case for brushing teeth, talking about the long-range benefits. The child simply cannot see that far into the future, so assigns a low truth value that cannot overcome the "I don't wanna" impulses of youth. Another fun one is the combination of a red herring and retrospective determinism. In this set, the child caught breaking the rule tries to change the topic and assign the real responsibility to the person who created the rule. Both the Hermione and the Draco, plus every other method, play on a parent's guilt. Most parents think that they are not doing as good a job as they should, and a child will see this and attempt to exploit that apparent weakness. One of the best fallacies for this is tu quoque. This will often sound like, "You do it too," or more often, "You don't do it either." Parents need to sort this out quickly, and certainly before the little darlings develop their skills during adolescence, such that talking in circles is second nature. And most parents, being human beings, are simple reaction machines. The logical fallacies are all pokes at the parent's emotional brain, such that the rational brain does not engage quickly enough to render the Hermiones, Dracos, and other methods useless. Logical fallacies are, at their heart, methods of manipulation. Any successfully used over time will be the basis for lifelong personality quirks that won't really serve them. Manipulators know they are not being authentic and therefore feel they must hide their true selves from everyone, including themselves. We live in a fairy tale of our own devising, and we spend most of our lives afraid of the monster we think lives in our head. So, what should a parent do? Well, the simple to say, hard to do answer is don't play the game. Children have very little power in their lives. Mostly they are living out the dictates of their caregivers, and they know they have little real power. Professional observations have shown that children who are dominated will find lesser beings to dominate in return. This can be siblings, pets, favorite toys, or anything. Not having direct control means children learn to create and automatically deliver canned responses to common interactions. This includes interactions with other children and with adults. So don't assume that the point of the game is to force you to have an upset reaction. That is simply a side effect. The point is to argue effectively enough to fulfill a want. Your reaction is part of the path to fulfillment. So don't engage with the expected reaction. Instead, respond with an unemotional thank you to the Hermione's compliments and a "that is not appropriate" to the Draco's tantrums. Other methods have their respective responses, but emotional reactions are gasoline on the fire. Children and young teens don't know they are swimming with the fallacy sharks. It's just the best they can do with the tools biology has given them. What is a parent's job, anyway? This might sound awful and maybe even cruel. However, parents have exactly one job. get their spawn to adulthood in reasonably good mental and physical health. That's it. It's not a parent's job to make sure the little angel has a good life, or becomes successful, or gives them the wanted grandchildren. It's not a parent's job to make sure the cupcake follows the right religion or politics. Just like the rest of the animal kingdom, the role of the parent is to take care of the youngster until it is viable on its own. That is simply the reality. Everything else is a story. The child's job? Well, until they're old enough to understand that they have the job of getting away from parental care as soon as they can, their job is to use effective arguments to fulfill their wants. They have no options. They do not have enough brain power and experience to do anything else. You are the adult. You are the one with choices and options. You decide how your life goes and how you respond to logical fallacies. Parenting is more than a set of skills. A parent must remake themselves in fundamental ways. So I offer up 5 steps for parenting. Step 1. Before you can create yourself as a parent, you have to know why you want children. Here's the universal answer to why. It's a biological imperative. Your body tells you to mate and to keep on mating until a pregnancy occurs. There are 8 billion people on the planet because mating feels really, really good. That's it. Everything else is a societal, cultural, or personal story. A story we made up. I've heard a lot of stories. Simple ones like women telling me that they want to experience pregnancy, men telling me they want to experience the responsibility of being a father, and other stories that are complex and compelling. I do remember 45 years ago or so hearing that some teen pregnancies were intended so that the young woman will have someone who loves them unconditionally. Doesn't matter what the story is. It was created using a plethora of logical fallacies in service of our biology. It is highly unlikely, by the way, that the child will completely share the nature of your story, so conflicts will arise. That primal purpose, coupled with the basic job of being a parent, is the whole point of being a parent. Everything else is either cake or mud pie. Properly preparing yourself as a parent, which by the way can be done after the fact, offers up a lot of flavors of cake. Let it all happen by chance or by a rule book you didn't author may result in more cake than mud. Don't bet the house on it though. Step 2. Decide who you are. Find and commit to your authentic self. It is nearly impossible to raise a child with good mental health if you have no idea who you really are. People lie all the time, mostly to ourselves. We are busy avoiding looking bad by trying to look good. It's a failing game. Other adults will pretend right along with us. But it is not a child's game. Your child will spend a lot of time with you, and you are their first example of being a person. That means you need to always be the same person, and that means being authentic. Always saying what is so about yourself and being responsible for it. For instance, if your child does something and your response is anger, you must understand that your child did not make you angry, even if the child intended to make you angry. Anger was your response to a particular event. Your response. Displaying it will help the wannabe Dracos to know that a given action will cause anger. If you don't catch the anger before it responds, stop. Take a breath or two to let the upset dissipate. Acknowledge the issue, then respond with a logical consequence from a rational rather than emotional process. Likewise, the Hermiones will be trying for a different emotional response like, "Ah, poor baby." There are plenty of opportunities to be emotionally supportive of your children. Disciplinary time isn't one of them. Step 3. Become knowledgeable. Read multiple current books by different authors on infant care and child development. Dr. Spock wrote great books for their time, but you want the most current thinking. Don't rely on only one source, especially another parent, including your own, who learned through on-the-job training, so to speak. You want professional advice. You are undertaking a long experiment that will end with a healthy adult if you do it satisfactorily. If you try to do it perfectly, you will raise someone who helps make the boat payments for therapists. If you have a local children's hospital, ask them and your pediatrician for book recommendations. Do not pick and choose from the advice in the books based on how you feel about the information. Your feelings and intuitions almost always are going to point you in the wrong direction. It is predictable that you will raise your children the way you were raised or nearly opposite of how you were raised. Try short-circuiting that automatic pathway. If you read all the books and none of them tell you that you need mental health weeks, days, hours, or minutes, you haven't read the right book yet. Remember, your job is to not be the full-time entertainment, nor are you your child's lifeguard at the humanity pool. If you're trying to protect your children from anything that might be dangerous, you are severely damaging your child's risk assessment training, and being overly protective will drive them away in mid-adolescence. If you want a teen who will confide, you will need to have demonstrated that you will listen without judgment, and demonstrated that early and consistently. Step 4. This step is controversial, but I strongly endorse it. Do not lie to your child. This is especially true in the first 7 or 8 years. No lies at all. For example, this includes the lie that is Santa Claus. Young children have no ability to tell fact from fantasy, and as they gain the ability, they will begin to resent having been lied to. During their adolescence, they will trust you less for each lie you told them, even if they can't quite figure out why they don't trust you. You might tell them a story about Santa Claus, telling them he isn't real, and you will be playing Santa at home so the two of you can pretend. That goes for everything that is not physically demonstrable. If you can't show it, don't infect your child with fantasies. That will damage your relationship when they are teens and adults. I will leave you to decide if a God belief is fact or fiction. Step 5. If you are not the only caregiver, make sure the other adults are playing by your rules, or by the agreed rules. No exceptions, not even the grandparent exceptions. Grandparents who insist they don't need to follow the rules are evidence enough for the child to become disobedient. Family rules should be universal and consistent. If a child has a set bedtime, the parents have a set bedtime. Exceptions, like work shift requirements, etc., need special conversations that the child can relate to. Neither the child nor the parents are special. Special pleading is a very bad argument style. Because I'm an adult, is a really good reason for children to pick and choose the rules to obey just as they see the adults doing. As the child gets older and more rules are required, negotiate the new rules well ahead of time. Find a workable solution with the child for each new circumstance and implement the rule on the child's birthday if possible. Have the rule be attached to growing up. Write the rule down, or better, video the child's agreement. Something to use when the child balks at a rule to remind them that they agreed. Children, just like adults, work best when they are rewarded for the effort. A small prize of some sort for completing some series of tasks over a period of time is very useful. Make the prize celebrations about the successful completion, even though the child will tend to make it about the prize. A reward for being a good family member or a school citizen is something like a participation trophy, rather than something significant in it itself. If the prize fulfills a physical want, the child will miss the point. And try not to turn this into a competition. The goal isn't to win. Rather, it is to learn integrity. That is, they're being responsible for doing what they have agreed to do and that they are required to do. Well, that's my 5 steps. This isn't complete, of course. It's simply what I consider the most important. These steps will not get you through unscathed. Every child is different, and some will be more challenging than others. In any event, you're the level head. Children aren't tiny, rational adults. They're little narcissists. Don't be pushed around by your children, and don't push your children around. Remember, you only have one job, and it doesn't include being a victim.